The NFL regular season is officially over, so it's time for some 2022 quarterback grades. The NFL's criteria for a quarterback to qualify for season-ending stats is at least 14 pass attempts per game. Since there are 17 games in a season now, that means I'll be grading the 33 quarterbacks who threw at least 238 pass attempts this season. 14 times 17 equals 238. Get it? Great, you're a math genius. I am grading in alphabetical order just like I did in last season's final quarterback grades. Fair warning, I am a tough grader, as I feel since there are truly so few spectacular quarterbacks, it makes no sense if tons of quarterbacks got great grades. But I am a fair grader as well. Get ready to embrace debate right after this. Today's video is brought to you by DraftKings. The NFL regular season just wrapped up, which can only mean one thing: it's playoff time. Starting on January 14th, 14 of the best teams will contend against each other in hopes of getting to Super Bowl 57. If that's not enticing enough, I'm teaming up with DraftKings to give all new customers a winning offer. All new customers have to do is sign up for DraftKings using my promo code BARRY. Bet at least $5 on any NFL playoff game and you will instantly receive an additional $200 in bonus bets. Yup, that's right. New customers bet just $5 on any NFL playoff game of your choosing and you'll instantly get $200 in bonus bets deposited in your account. Wondering what you could use $200 in bonus bets on? Try out same game parlays, where you can combine multiple bets from one game, like which team will win and by how much, for a shot at even bigger winnings. If mobile sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code BARRY, bet $5 on any NFL playoff game, and you get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code BARRY only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Before I get to the 33 qualified quarterbacks, here are some quarterbacks who just missed the cut. Let's begin. Josh Allen, Buffalo. Allen completed his third straight season with 35-plus touchdown passes and also chipped in another 7 on the ground for good measure to help the Bills finish a stellar 13-3. At his best, Allen is like a human polar bear with a rocket launcher attached to his right arm. He is now firmly entrenched among the NFL's elite quarterbacks. However, he does still go through periods of carelessness. He had 19 turnovers this season, including 7 in a 3-game midseason span that saw the Bills go 1-2 and give Patrick Mahomes the inside track to MVP, and Kansas City the track to the 1 seed. I'm not getting into the Hamlin situation here, okay? If he can work on taking better care of the ball while maintaining his prolific touchdown totals, there's no reason why he can't win multiple MVPs in the future. Grade B+. Tom Brady, Tampa Bay. As a famous Tom Brady critic, yeah, let's say that, I should have enjoyed 2022. Brady had his first ever losing season, and his individual production and efficiency declined precipitously from his great 2020 and 2021 seasons. Tampa had one of the worst offenses in the league, and yet Brady finds himself in the playoffs once again thanks to a historically awful division. He threw for nearly 4,700 yards, but on a putrid 6.4 yards per attempt, and had just 25 touchdown passes on a record-breaking amount of attempts and completions. He had 26 total touchdowns to 13 turnovers. Barf. The saving grace for Brady were several late-game comebacks versus the Saints, Rams, and Cardinals, thanks largely to his defense giving him countless chances, and his opponents bailing him out with drops and soft defensive coverages. Still, even at his big age, if he has the ball late with a chance to win, chances are he will come through with his dink and dunk bullshit or a patented defensive pass interference flag to cover lots of ground quickly. If you don't blow Tampa out early, you are most likely in for heartbreak, because that's what Brady does. He breaks your heart. Just ask Giselle and Bridget Moynihan. Grade D+. Jacoby Brissett, Cleveland. When I did my mid-season grades for this season, I was pretty harsh on Brissett, and while he certainly isn't a game changer or a guy that can carry a team to greatness, he is a solid, if not boring, quarterback. In his 11 starts this year with Cleveland before Grover Cleveland returned from his horny timeout, Brissett was merely just okay. He had 14 total touchdowns to 10 turnovers, most of which came at crucial moments as Cleveland went just 4-7 in his 11 starts. Despite this, he was easily the best quarterback the Browns had this year, as dishonorable discharge was horrible over the last 6 games. Everything about Brissett's career has told the same story. He can keep you in a lot of games, but he won't go out and win games like the best quarterbacks quarterbacks do. He will always have a place as a backup quarterback somewhere, but he'll never be anything more than a low-end level starter at best. Grade D. Joe Burrow's Cincinnati. Burrow's 2022 season was all about proving that his 2021 season wasn't an anomaly, and while his efficiency did see a step back from his great 2021 regular season, he still contributed 40 total touchdowns to 15 turnovers, 5 of which came in a crushing Week 1 loss to Pittsburgh. Since he was sitting at 4-4 and Burrow was still taking too many sacks. Then since he ripped off an 8-game win streak to end the season, with Burrow getting the ball out quicker and seeing his sack percentage improve noticeably. Wink. If Burrow can limit his sacks, Cincinnati can get even more dangerous as they have loads of talent offensively. But it all starts with Burrow, who is now firmly a top 5 quarterback in the league. Although Cincinnati came close to winning the Super Bowl last year, Burrow was merely solid with a bunch of lucky bounces in the postseason. He is still yet to dominate a playoff game the way his contemporaries like Mahomes and Allen have. I want to see that out of him. Grade B+. Derek Carr, Las Vegas. It appears after 9 years, the Raiders have finally decided to pull the plug on Mr. Eyeliner. Every NFL quarterback wants to be respected, and Carr never really has been, and 2022 showed why. Constant blown leads leading to losses, horrible performances when least expected, all while sometimes showing glimpses of legit stardom thanks to his ridiculous arm talent to tease fans and create false hope. It's true the Raiders have never really had a good defense to help Carr, but the offenses Carr has led during his time have largely been below average to average. Not even adding the best wide receiver in the league and former college buddy Davante Adams was enough to rid Carr of his maddening inconsistency. Maybe Carr will go to a less difficult division and pull a Matthew Stafford to rewrite his legacy. I doubt it, but as it stands, Carr's career record is 63-79. He's never had a winning career record at any point, and he's never won a playoff game. He is, quite literally, one of the biggest losers in NFL history. Grade D+. Kirk Cousins, Minnesota. Kirk Cousins' legacy heading into this season was as a guy who put up monster stats but never won anything. So, of course, what happens this year? Cousins has by far the most team success he's ever had, while also having his worst individual season since becoming a full-time starter. Nothing with him is ever simple. Only Kirk could lead a team to a 13-4 record with 8 game-winning drives, including the literal biggest comeback in NFL history against the Colts, and still be made fun of, since no 13-win team has ever had a negative point differential before. It's pretty simple. Minnesota won a lot of close games and got blown out several times, which speaks to the larger picture with Kirk. We know he can dominate the 1 p.m. time slot games as good as anybody. When the lights are brightest in prime time, he has a habit of vomiting on himself, as the Dallas, Green Bay, and Philadelphia losses showed this year. He's the best quarterback. You have absolutely zero faith in winning anything in the playoffs. Grade C. Andy Dalton, New Orleans. Good old Andy is still collecting NFL checks for putting up the most mundane and average production you can get at the quarterback position. There's not much to say here about Dalton, who started the season as a backup to women's rights activist Jameis Winston before taking over in Week 4. He had his occasional good games, he had his bad games, all while instilling zero fear into opponents or opposing fans the entire time. That is the Andy Dalton experience. The less he was asked to throw the ball, the more New Orleans won, which is a nice way of saying his team didn't trust him to win games. Although I will say he got screwed over badly by his receivers in New Orleans' Monday Night Football loss to Tampa, which was a loss for all of America as well. He was throwing legit dimes that night. Simply put, his raw stats aren't bad, but he was nothing more than a game manager on a below-average offense. Grade D. Justin Fields, Chicago. It was a whirlwind second season for Fields. After a disastrous rookie year, he got off to a slow start the first 4 weeks again this season, looking just as bad as he did before. Then there was a glimmer of hope. He had around a 5-game span in the middle of the season where he showed off his freakish athleticism and running ability, while also ramping up his touchdowns. But wins didn't follow, as a combination of a terrible Bears defense and Fields' repeated struggles in crunch time kept the losses coming. Then, over the last 4 starts of the season, Fields seemed to regress again as the offense took a sharp nosedive. Fields' physical gifts have always been evident, and he is a terrific runner, but he has historically bad pocket awareness and is consistently late on reads, as is evidenced by his terrible, historically bad sack percentage. He's simply not a good passer. He's exciting to watch, but if his troubles continue in year 3, it's time for Chicago to give him the boot. Grade D-. Jimmy Garoppolo, San Francisco. It was an up and down season for my beautiful Italian angel Jimmy. He started the year as an afterthought behind Trey Lance, then Lance went down and Jimmy picked right where he left off from last year, putting up great efficiency stats and winning lots of games. Then he broke his foot against Miami and has been completely forgotten about again thanks to Brock Purdy's success. Jimmy has obviously benefited from Kyle Shanahan's system, so his stats must be taken with a grain of salt. He's injury prone and he doesn't throw deep as much as you'd like, but he is a quality NFL starter and also gorgeous. I doubt he will be back in San Fran after this year, so I will have to find a new secondary team to support since the 49ers might have given up on him. But not me. I'm not a stalker, I promise. Grade C+. Looks A+. Jared Goff, Detroit. Goff's career has been a roller coaster. He was drafted first overall, good. Historically awful rookie season, bust. Back-to-back great years and a Super Bowl appearance under McVay, elite. 2 mid-years with the Rams, not elite. Getting traded to a bad Lions team and having a bad season his first year there, bust again. Then, just when everybody was about to write him off, he went out in 2022 and produced a very good season, leading the Lions to a winning record with some of the best numbers in the league. Good again. The one catch is Goff's home road splits. Most of his production came from being dominant at home while he was below average on the road. But regardless, 2022 showed that Goff can actually play and is more than just the McVay puppet. Also, if his girlfriend's watching this, sup. Grade C+. Taylor Heinicke, Washington. Everybody's favorite underdog story. A scrappy, deceptively athletic undersized quarterback with a devil-may-care attitude. Heinicke didn't start the season as Washington's starter after they gave a shitload of money to Carson Wentz, but Wentz inevitably got hurt, giving Heinicke a shot. He won 5 of his first 6 starts despite mediocre numbers in most of them. He lost his last 3 starts before getting benched for Wentz in a must-win Week 17 game, ending his season. He doesn't have the physical tools to justify his style of play, which makes him fun to watch but also makes him prone to getting benched. His spunky attitude can give a team a shot in the arm, but the longer he is your starter, you start to see diminishing returns. Overall, in 9 starts, Heinicke had 13 total touchdowns and 11 turnovers. He's like another Colt McCoy. He'll last in the league for a long time as a spot starter / backup. Grade D. Justin Herbert, LA Chargers. This was supposed to be the year Herbert broke into the elite tier alongside guys like Mahomes, Allen, and even Burrow, but instead his individual numbers took a massive step back. How much of this is due to scheme, Joe Lombardi, and injuries is up for debate, but for a physical freak with one of the best arms the league has ever seen, Herbert feels like a Ferrari that's being driven around like a Prius. He averaged under 10 yards per completion and just 6.8 yards per attempt. He didn't run nearly as much as somebody with his athleticism should, although broken ribs might have contributed to this. On the plus side, he's still capable of making superhuman throws at a moment's notice, showing that he hasn't physically lost anything. He's finally made the playoffs and has a winning career record for the first time. I just wonder what his ceiling is. Is it Detroit Matthew Stafford or something greater? We will have to find out. I just hope that he gets the coaching that stops turning him into a checkdown machine. Grade C+. Jalen Hurts, Philadelphia. As an Eagles fan, I was not sold on Hurts his first 2 seasons. His rookie year was nothing more than, hey, that guy isn't Carson Wentz, so he's cool. His second season was inconsistent, beating up on bad teams and constantly leaving clean pockets, barely sneaking into the playoffs where he was horrible against football Voldemort's team. But his improvement this season has been unreal. Hurts controls the game and exudes a calmness that all the great quarterbacks do. On the season, he contributed 35 total touchdowns to just 8 turnovers. He is great at throwing deep and has improved his short game with Devonta Smith and newbie A.J. Brown. The only question mark for Hurts at this point is staying healthy. He is yet to win a playoff game, and he still occasionally goes for the home run instead of taking what the defense gives him, but the playoff wins will come with time. And as long as he is under center, the Eagles are in excellent shape and should be considered perennial Super Bowl contenders. Grade A. Lamar Jackson, Baltimore. For the second straight year, Lamar started the first 12 games, got hurt, and was never seen again as Baltimore collapsed without him. People can debate all they want about Lamar's passing prowess or lack thereof, and how he's nothing but a runner, and it's true, Lamar is not a great passer, as his passing stats outside of 2019 have shown, but he's still not a terrible passer by any means either. Oh yeah, he still remains the best runner the quarterback position has ever seen. He might not be the best quarterback or player in the league, but he might be the most valuable to his team. He's won nearly 74% of his career starts, an outrageous percentage. But as of right now, it looks like we've seen the last of Lamar in a Ravens uniform. Grade C+. Daniel Jones, New York Giants. Nobody benefited more from Brian Daboll's arrival than Jones, who was on his last chance heading into this season to show he can be a viable starter in the league. His numbers still aren't that great, but he embraced his athleticism and running ability, sneaky, more than ever before while cutting down on his lost fumbles. He helped the Giants reach the playoffs for just the second time in 11 years. Wow, that's so pathetic. Let's not go overboard though. Jones might not be as actively bad as he was his first 3 years, but he is still little more than a game manager who relies on a stout running game to be effective. And even so, the Giants' offense was still average. He's done enough to earn another year as Giants quarterback, but not much more than that. As an Eagles fan, fan, I hope he remains the Giants starting quarterback forever. Grade C-. Mac Jones, New England. McCorkle had a textbook sophomore slump after a pretty solid rookie year. New England's offense was one of the worst in the league with him under center. Jones missed 3 games with an injury, then got benched on Monday Night Football, got his job back, and basically relied on his stout defense and special teams to help him eke out wins against bad teams the rest of the season. Jones showed glimpses here and there with some impressive downfield throws that he should give New England pause about moving on from him yet, but he seems to have regressed in the pocket. He has no mobility to avoid pass rushers, and he appears to struggle against the blitz, and plus his arm is still terrible. How much of Jones's decline is due to Matt Patricia calling plays? I'm not sure we'll ever know, but I know if Jones has any chance of becoming a good NFL quarterback, it sure as hell won't be with Patricia as his offensive coordinator. Grade D-. Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville. Lawrence really must be into edging because after his horrible rookie season and slow start to this season, it was basically a foregone conclusion that he was a bust. But then, after starting 2-6 with improved but still mediocre numbers, Lawrence finally started looking like the generational quarterback that was promised. Jacksonville ended up going 7-2 over its last 9 games to win the AFC South and make the playoffs. Lawrence put up a 104.6 rating and 17 touchdowns in that span. Overall, he finished the season with borderline top 10 quarterback numbers, a marked improvement from year 1. The more confidence Lawrence gains, the better he will get. He still has his flaws, such as lost fumbles and being shaky in crunch time, but for the first time in decades, there is real hope for sustained success in Jacksonville, and this Ebony Maw lookalike is the biggest reason why. Also, the AFC South sucking ass doesn't hurt either. Grade B-. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City. 5,600 total yards, 45 total touchdowns to 12 turnovers, a 14-3 record, and the best offense in the league. He's going to win his second MVP in just his 5th season as a starter, all after losing all-world wide receiver and father Tyreek Hill. After a relatively down 21 season by his standards, Mahomes once again showed why he is the best quarterback in the league. He really has no flaws besides occasionally getting bored, which will cause him to toss a dumb interception here and there. He didn't have great fourth quarter numbers this year, but his numbers over the first 3 quarters were so dominant it rarely mattered, and he still led 4 game-winning drives for good measure. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback at just 27 years old. So I hate to break it to any Mahomes detractors, but you can expect about 10 or more seasons like this in the future. The only question remaining is whether or not he'll win enough rings to make the GOAT convo interesting by the time he retires. Grade A+. Marcus Mariota, Atlanta. Mariota's first shot as a starter for the first time in 2.5 seasons went about as you'd expect. He was as average statistically throwing as you could imagine, and he wasn't asked to throw the ball much. Atlanta played in a lot of close games, surprisingly, and with a better quarterback, they might have been able to put up a winning record and win the NFC South. But in 13 starts, Mariota put up just 19 total touchdowns, 12 turnovers, the definition of mid. He was finally benched for Desmond Ridder for the last 4 games and then opted for season-ending knee surgery. He won't be back in Atlanta next year, so it looks like it's going to be back to holding a clipboard for the time being for the former Heisman winner. Grade D. Baker Mayfield, Carolina/LA Rams. The Panthers had no quarterbacks reach the 238 attempts mark, but Mayfield had the most attempts on the team, so he will be the Panthers representative for this video. His time with the Panthers was brutal and full of sadness. It was so bad that they cut him, but chunky soup expert Sean McVay picked him up to lead the Zombie Rams for the last couple games. There was the awesome comeback versus the Raiders and the blowout win versus the Broncos where he even won MVP, but it was mostly just more bad play for the former #1 overall pick. He really isn't that accurate, he takes a lot of sacks, and he can't see over linemen due to his short stature. His great rookie season and impressive bounce-back 2020 season had a lot of people, like me, thinking great things about his future, but I think it's time to admit he really stinks and won't ever be a respected starter in the league again. Grade D-. Davis Mills, Houston. A feel-good story his rookie year for not being as terrible as everybody thought he'd be on a bad Texans team. Mills had real expectations for the first time this season, and he regressed. Any hope of Mills becoming a legitimate starter in the league for a long time evaporated with each passing week as he racked up loss after loss with shit stats on a 3-win team. Houston's offense was horrible, and Mills was a big reason why. In 15 starts, he contributed 19 touchdowns and 18 turnovers. And to further make himself hated amongst Texans fans, he made sure to throw a game-winning touchdown pass and 2-point conversion in the final game of the season to make sure they didn't get the #1 overall pick. Now Mills will transition to where he was always destined to be, holding a clipboard and occasionally getting snaps in meaningless late-season games for the rest of his career, on that Jim Sorgi grind. Grade D-. Kyler Murray, Arizona. It's now been 4 years since Kyler was drafted first overall to turn around a shit Cardinals franchise. He's produced 1 playoff appearance and 0 playoff wins. He just suffered a serious knee injury during the worst season of his career, and oh yeah, everybody thinks he's lazy because of his own front office. At this exact moment, Kyler's stock Dak has never been lower. He was making the progress you'd expect from a first overall pick his first 2.5 seasons, but ever since that Thursday Night Football loss to Green Bay last year where Arizona entered undefeated and he threw the game-losing interception in the end zone, it's been a free fall. He has talent, no doubt, but after a major leg injury, how much will his mobility, a huge part of his effectiveness, be impacted? He makes a lot of highlight reel plays, but not enough plays from the pocket that translate to consistency, which translates to winning. Maybe a new head coach can get more out of him, but at this point, Murray is empty calories and trending towards all-time tease territory, also known as Jay Cutler land. Grade D. Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh. Kenny Kitten Mitten's rookie season was pretty up and down. He finished with a winning record as a starter, but he contributed just 10 total touchdowns to 10 turnovers. He threw a lot of checkdowns and was boring to watch most of the time, as is Steeler tradition, but he also showed glimpses of real ability in high-leverage moments, making big boy throws, especially against Baltimore, showing that he could potentially thrive under a different offensive coordinator who pushes the ball downfield more. He and George Pickens seem to have real chemistry too. It's too early to make any grand declarations on Pickett, but the talent is there, even if his hands are comically tiny. Grade D-. Dak Prescott, Dallas. Yes. Rain Dakota Prescott. What is there to say about him? He threw 15 interceptions in just 12 starts this season and had 24 total touchdowns to 16 turnovers. Dak is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get on any given week. When he's on point, he's as good as anybody, but he has far too many what the fuck moments to be considered elite or for anybody to put their trust in him in big moments. He is good enough to rack up wins against bad teams, but I feel supremely confident the Cowboys will never win a Super Bowl with him under center. And when you're the starting quarterback for Dallas getting paid millions and millions of dollars by the famously not racist Jerry Jones, that's the standard. Grade C+. Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. No quarterback has ever protected the football better than Rodgers, but that wasn't the case this season, where everything went to shit. He contributed 27 total touchdowns to a whopping 16 turnovers. He looked nothing like the quarterback who won the previous 2 MVPs outside of 2 games against the Bears and Cowboys. Shocking, I know. The question now is whether Rodgers' rapid decline was due to a broken thumb and shitty receivers or just plain old age. Either way, if Rodgers decides to retire or go to another team, I think it's time for Green Bay to close the book on the Rodgers era and transition to Jordan Love. Rodgers didn't even break 300 passing yards in any game, and his patented crunch time struggles cost Green Bay several winnable games, most notably Week 18's win-in game versus the Lions at home. 2022 Aaron Rodgers was a mediocre game manager, not the future Hall of Famer whom many people consider the most talented quarterback ever. Grade D. Matt Ryan, Indianapolis. It's time for Matt Ryan to become a full-time family man. While early in the season he showed some signs of good play, overall he's just too washed up to be a productive NFL quarterback. He had several fourth-quarter comebacks, but he also got benched twice, once for Sam Ehlinger and once for Nick Foles' phallus. In 12 starts, he contributed 15 touchdowns and 18 turnovers. Disgusting. His arm has never been super strong, but now it's just completely cooked. And oh yeah, he also blew the largest lead in NFL history against the Vikings, which, in addition to 28-3, might cost him a spot in the Hall of Fame. If he's not an ESPN NFL Sunday Countdown analyst next season, I will be shocked. Grade D-. Geno Smith, Seattle. Geno just completed one of the greatest what the fuck seasons of any player in NFL history. 32-year-old draft bust emerging as one of the better quarterbacks in the league in his 10th season was not on anybody's bingo card before this year. Geno not only made the Pro Bowl, throwing for almost 4,300 yards and 30 touchdowns, he also made a good amount of incredible throws, showing real talent. And oh yeah, the Seahawks also made the playoffs. Geno did tail off over the last 5 games of the season and took a lot of sacks all year, but in a year where so many good or promising quarterbacks took a step back, it was amazing to see a draft bust prove everybody wrong. It looks like the post-Russell Wilson era in Seattle isn't as bleak as many thought it would be. Grade B-. Matthew Stafford, LA Rams. The strange career of Matthew Stafford continues. After going from being a career loser in Detroit to Super Bowl champion quarterback in LA, Stafford entered 2022 at a pivotal point in his career. If he could produce another stellar season and deep playoff run, it would show a lot of doubters that 2021 wasn't just a fluke on the NFL's version of a super team. Maybe he could actually make the Hall of Fame someday, but as it turns out, the normally durable Stafford ended up missing 8 games, and the 9 games he did play in, he was mostly brutal, looking nothing like the guy who threw 41 touchdowns last year. In 9 starts, he ended with just 11 touchdowns to 11 turnovers, and his offense scored 14 or fewer points 5 times. Stafford is only 23 more losses away from passing Vinny Testaverde as the all-time losingest quarterback ever. And now that the Rams look like they're set up for a long rebuild without McVay, I think Stafford might actually get there. Welcome to Detroit West. Grade D-. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami. Bittersweet. That's the only way to describe Tua's 2022 season. After 2 years of mostly mediocre play, Tua entered 2022 to prove he wasn't a bust, and he did just that, which is the sweet part. With the help of new coach Mike McDaniel, the arrival of anti-domestic violence activist Tyreek Hill and the improvement of Jalen Waddle, Tua finished the season first in many efficiency metrics such as touchdown percentage, yards per attempt, adjusted yards per attempt, yards per completion, passer rating, net yards per attempt, and adjusted net yards per attempt. Did you get all that? Miami also won the first 8 games Tua started and finished, and that's where the bitter part comes in. Tua suffered at least 3 concussions. He missed virtually 5 games and almost certainly played concussed for a half in a 6th, resulting in him throwing 3 interceptions. Tua's health issues played a huge part in Miami nearly missing the playoffs after starting 8-3. The 2 questions now are how much of Tua's market improvement are due to McDaniel's scheme and Tyreek, and the most important one is, should Tua even continue to play football at all? No matter what happens, Tua showed he could play at a high level in the NFL, which is something most people cannot say. Grade A-. Ryan Tannehill, Tennessee. You know when you ask for a Coke and the waiter says, "Is Pepsi okay?" The initial disappointment you feel before you finally accept that, yeah, Pepsi's okay, I guess. That's Ryan Tannehill. Outside of 2019 and 2020 when he put up great efficiency, he's always been just okay. And 2022 was no different. He started just 12 games and was mostly a game manager on a run-oriented offense behind Derrick Henry. There's nothing about Tannehill that really sticks out. He's athletic, but not a freak athlete. Like, he's got a good arm, not great. His accuracy has always been good, but not special. He's interception prone and he takes a lot of sacks. He's won 55% of his career starts. Again, not bad, not great. He's won 66% of his starts with the Titans, but has crapped his pants in the playoffs every year he made it to them. And yet, without Tannehill under center, as this season showed, the Titans really suck. It's up to Tennessee brass to decide whether Tannehill starting 6-2 this year warrants him a job in 2023, or whether losing his last 4 starts means it's time to move on and swing big in the draft. Grade D+. Carson Wentz, Washington. Remember during Derek Carr's segment when I talked about how every NFL quarterback, if nothing else, wants to be respected? Well, it's safe to say Wentz is not. I know there's another dimension out there where Wentz doesn't get hurt in 2017, wins MVP and Super Bowl MVP, and goes on to have a Hall of Fame career with the Eagles, but it hasn't worked out that way. After his dreadful 2020 season and a 1-year pit stop in Indy that saw him choke late in the year, Washington paid Wentz a shitload of money to win games, and he failed spectacularly. He started just 7 games and went 2-5 in them, including a must-win Week 17 game versus Cleveland, where he threw 3 interceptions for a 31.3 rating to end Washington's season. Wentz is known as a physically talented but fragile choker with poor leadership qualities. He still has his good games and moments where you see why he was picked 2nd overall in 2016, but as each year passes, those become fewer and far between. Grade D-. Russell Wilson, Denver. Like everybody else, I didn't see Russell Wilson completely collapsing into a bum upon arriving in Denver. This was a guy who had one of the best 10-year runs any quarterback has ever had in Seattle, and he's still in his early 30s. But the marijuana-filled Denver air obviously affected his play, causing him to look nothing like the Hall of Fame quarterback we saw in Seattle. In Wilson's first 11 starts, Denver averaged just 14.3 points per game, and Wilson contributed just 9 touchdowns. He did start to pick things up a bit in his last 4 starts, putting up 10 touchdowns with Denver averaging 24.3 points per game, but he also had 7 turnovers in that span. Considering all the money Denver paid him and the trade haul they made to get him, he will get a second chance in 2023 under a new head coach, but if he flops hard again next year, things will be very spooky for Sierra's husband, and he might need to become a full-time Subway commercial actor. Grade F. And finally, Zach Wilson, New York Jets. Zach Wilson sucks. It's really that simple. He's so bad that the team who drafted him 2nd overall not even 24 months ago has already benched him twice. At no point in his short NFL career has he shown that he belongs on an NFL field. Somehow, thanks to a combination of stellar running and defense, the Jets went 5-1 in his first 6 starts this season. But that formula for success with dead weight at quarterback can only work for so long in the 2022 NFL. And the Jets promptly lost his final 3 starts. Have we seen the last of Wilson with the Jets? We could have. Basically, Wilson tries to play like prime Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes when he doesn't have nearly the same amount of talent. The result is a lot of disorganized throws, misreads, and what the hell moments. But it's not all bad for Wilson. He looks like a model that could star in one of those crappy CW superhero shows. He could play a superhero called MILF Man, whose entire purpose is to rescue MILFs from danger. Grade F-. MILF hunting ability, A+.